Why don't we tell the truth? I think one of the reasons, of course, is that we are frightened of being called anti-Semitic. And I think to call a decent person anti-Semitic because he dares to criticize Israel is shameful, because it will make anti-Semitism respectable, and shame upon those people who make these false accusations against us as journalists. We're always being told, oh, you're biased, you're on the side of terrorism, Al Dershowitz, you're on the side of Palestinians, you're on the side of Arabs. No. You know, when I started off in journalism on a small, horrible, no, it was kind to me, newspaper in the northeast of England, the Newcastle Evening Chronicle, we were given journalism school lessons in which your basic job was to tell half of one person's story in one side of the story and the alternative side of the story in the next half. In other words, 50-50 journalism. That's okay if you're reporting a football match. It's okay if you're reporting a public inquiry on a new motorway. You know, you put in the local authorities' reason for building the motorway and the reasons why the protesters object to the path the motorway will take. But the Middle East is not a football match. It is a bloody tragedy. And our job as journalists, I believe, should be to be neutral and unbiased on the side of those who suffer. If we were reporting the slave trade in the 18th century, would we be expected to give equal time to the slave ship captain? No, we'd talk to the slaves and find out how many of them had died on the ship. If we were present at the liberation of a Nazi extermination camp, would we give half our story to the SS spokesman? No. We would talk to the survivors and learn about the Jewish dead through a mixture of fear and laziness. And by the way, I'm not the only journalist who's trying to get through this particular net. I have many colleagues who are trying to do what I'm trying to do. But there are a large number of people, particularly in television, who, in order to stay uncontroversial, will not use the real words for the brutality and bloodshed they're watching. Typical examples. Over and over again, since Colin Powell, when he was Secretary of State, told US diplomats in the Middle East, you are not to refer to the occupied territories as occupied, you are to refer to them as disputed, American correspondents and some European have basically gone along with this. They are disputed territories. Similarly, the wall, and I was in Israel a few weeks ago, and the wall is bigger than the Berlin Wall and longer than the Berlin Wall, is called a fence, or a security barrier. Sicherheits was the word the East German government used about the Berlin Wall. And so we come to the word Jewish neighborhood instead of Jewish settlement, or what it really is, a colony built illegally for Israelis and Israelis only against all international law on Arab land. And thus, through our journalistic cowardice, we make it easier for those who suffer to become the aggressors and those who are the occupiers to become the victims. One thing Gaza did do, which we perhaps fail to realize today, it allowed the Palestinians, because the Israelis have been stupid enough to keep Western journalists out, so we could come along and do our 50-50 stories on the other hand. It allowed the Palestinians to tell their own story of suffering.